Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 10th episode. Wow, it's crazy that it's been 10 episodes of the JSB Anime Cast. I'm your host, Asher, and my favorite weapon is the Drums of War. To the bottom left of me is Tiger Lily, aka Jenny. Her favorite weapon is spears. And to the bottom right of me is JSB Zen, aka Rob, and his favorite weapon is hammers. We're here today to talk about a pretty exciting anime. I'm excited to get talking to because there's a lot that goes into it. And that's summertime rendering, and I kind of feel like a lot of people have it. One of the main reasons, like a lot of people, I guess American side hasn't maybe watched it or I haven't heard it like talked about in my circles, is that it's not really like a Crunchyroll thing. We had to watch it through Hulu. I think at one point it was on Disney Plus, so it's like it's just very strange to like get a handle on. But people hear it's good, and here we are getting around to it. But before we actually get to it, we have to go through the usual ritual, the usual rigmarole of, just what I do at the beginning of every one of these episodes, and that's checking in on y'all goons. So, Rob, how's your past 2 weeks been? How's your weekend been? You been watching any other anime or doing anything anime adjacent?
Life's been pretty alright.
Okay.
Right? Aside from like having to work pretty much every single day, I haven't actually like had a day off in what feels like forever at this point.
Okay.
I've been keeping myself busy. Not really anime related. It's more like GameCast stuff. But like I've blitzed through Final Fantasy 16.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll talk about that probably the next time I record the GamesCast.
But if you had to say good or bad, just one word, good or bad, what would you say for it?
Favorite.
Favorite. Damn. All right.
That's the only word I'll use.
All right. All right. Continue.
Yeah. I can't wait to go in depth into that game. I'm planning a spoiler cast within the next couple of weeks. I'm gathering the goons to be a part of it. So
perfect.
Yeah, that'll come up sometime. Anime adjacent. I haven't watched a ton outside of Summertime Rendering, only because it was 25 episodes and like time. But I did finish skipping Loafer within this time period.
So did I.
We've talked about it like several times throughout these last couple of episodes, right? So like I don't need to like rehash skipping Loafer. But ultimately, it sort of lands as probably my favorite. No, not even probably. I think it is my favorite anime of this past season.
Really? Okay.
Yes. When I sit down and think about it, like Oshinoko was a crazy surprise.
Yeah.
Right. And like it sits very highly with me. I do enjoy it a lot. And Demon Slayer was also very high for me. But this one is like very Rob core on the slice of life side of things.
All three are so different.
It's completely different, right?
Wow.
But they're all like things that I love, right?
Mm-hmm.
But something about skipping Loafer just like struck a chord with me that I'm like, this is like top tier comfy material. This is like a 10 out of 10 in terms of like slice of life genre.
Yeah.
That like I have no negatives for it aside from damn, we're probably not going to get another season of it.
You don't think we're gonna get a season 2 of it?
Slice of Life is weird, right? Because like they never do well in terms of like Blu-ray sales and stuff, right? And Skip and Loafer isn't exactly something that like you're going to sell a ton of merchandise over or anything. You know what I mean?
Listen,
so, like,
I buy statues of every character in that show.
I would too. Absolutely. Statues, acrylic stands, all of it.
Yep.
But I always see these shows that are really good, and then it's just one season, and it's like, well, I guess I just have to go read the manga at this point, because like they don't bring in the money, right?
Yeah.
So like, why do another season if it's not gonna fund, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I would be super excited if they did. I'm not gonna expect it. I do think they started localizing them in print for us in English. I think there's a couple volumes out, or maybe they're about to be up, whether they pre-order or whatever. But I'm probably gonna start buying those and probably start reading them. So,
I mean, people have watched it, love it. So
yeah, it's fantastic. So that's really it. I just want to get into sledgehammer discussions.
Fantastic. What about you, Jenny? Anything anime adjacent or anything interesting?
Yes.
All
So,
right.
I did my homework early this time,
Okay.
and work has also been very, very busy. Just I needed time off, so I took a day and just watched all. Well, okay, I got to like 5 episodes of Summertime Rendering, and then I watched the next 20.
Yeah.
In one day.
Oh my god.
What a binge.
Yeah, I took up my calculator and I was like, oh my god, that was 6.66 hours of just straight anime.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I took a vacation this week, so I've been, traveling. But what do I do when I get on a plane for a couple hours? Paul downloads some episodes of an anime, and we just go through a few to see which one we want to pick up next.
Okay.
And we started Spy Family.
Ooh.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Do you like it?
I do. It's really funny. It's definitely got a lot of satire, tongue-in-cheek kind of humor to it. Like in the very first episode, it's very obvious, which is great. They don't hold back right out the gate. And as it keeps going, it does move very fast. So that could be one thing that if you like fast-paced animes, this one definitely has something crazy happen every single episode. So you don't have to get a lot of build-up. You don't have to wait on a lot of build-up to get that gratification. But other than that, trying to plan out whether we're gonna go to Hallmat or not this year, and then also checking on
the middle of the week Hallmat.
Yeah, it's an awkward one.
There's that, and then also looking at Dragon Con, which is much sooner than Hallmat.
Ooh, in one of my favorite cities, ATL. So
when is that?
It's usually Labor Day weekend. So
Labor Day weekend. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. But yeah, that's.
So when you landed, did you landed during your vacation? Did you go back in time?
Yeah.
Did you arrive and then something happened and then you died and then everything reset?
Did you get isekai'd?
Did you get Summertime rendered? It is summertime.
Oh shit. For all I know, this is the third time we've done this.
Yeah, it's the third.
Oh, man.
Hey, I'm Asher Barzaga. This is the third episode the third time you're seeing episode 10 of the JSB Anime Cast.
The third 10th episode.
Yeah. Okay, well that's nice to hear. I'm excited to hear your thoughts since you practically binged it in a day. So that tells me
I never do that.
You kind of liked it. I'm hoping. We'll find out.
That'll be one hell of a hate binge.
I mean,
to be honest.
Right?
God, I hate this so much.
I'm very curious, because you could be in situations where you do that binge and it's perfect all the way up until the landing and they don't stick the landing. So, but we'll find out. The cool thing about it is in these 25 episodes, it's a complete story. So, we'll talk about how does it feel as a complete story and if it ends up being good, people can be like, yeah, that's 25 episodes. Easy peasy. I can enjoy a complete story in 25 episodes. Or it's is it even worth my time, But first I'll get to what I've been doing that's maybe anime adjacent, and that's I also finished Skip and Loafer, so don't need to go into that. I started playing card game that someone one of the members of the JSB community have gotten me into, the fighting game community. I would say the best Dengeki Bunko player in America, our homie Sutenshi, he plays card games. He's very active in the Yu-Gi-Oh community, or he was active in the Yu-Gi-Oh community. Um, he we did a little exchange where I like convinced him to learn Magic, and then he was like, "If you played Weiss Schwarz, like, would you play Weiss Schwarz with me?" Which is a Bushy Road designed card game, and I was like, "Yeah, of course." Or like, well, it was less of an of course until I saw the prices for this game. You could build like fun decks for pennies, which is the complete opposite of Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh. So we're like, you're telling me I could build a 50 card deck for $50, and then like, which by the way, that's like the price of one card if you're gonna be competitive in Magic. And so like, I don't know. I've been loving it. He bought me the Kaguya-sama trial deck, and if anybody knows anything, I love Kaguya-sama. Um, I ended up buying a box of Kaguya-sama. Um, I also have built a Miku deck, Miku from Quintessential Quintuplets. Like a lot of your favorite anime properties, you can play in this card game. Um,
Somewhere on that shelf back here, I have a Fate Zero
Fate
deck
Zero, perfect.
when Carrie taught me how to play like 10 years ago.
Yeah. And then we opened some Rent a Girlfriend packs also last night, so we're looking into building Rent a Girlfriend decks. Um, so that's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm very excited. Um, I'll probably share more of that journey on like my social media and stuff like that as I get like further into it. Um, because if they announced Chainsaw Man, so Chainsaw Man will be in this card game next year, and we're humbly waiting if Bochi will be, and if Bochi is in the card game,
That has to be guaranteed.
that's what I was telling Carrie.
Yeah,
But Carrie is worried that it won't be
really.
because in the most recent announcement they haven't announced it, so it's like, and it's out in Japan now, um, so it's like we're hoping. And if they do, we probably buy a case, not just a box. Um,
So they have Bocchi in Japan.
well, I don't think it's out in Japan,
Oh.
but they announced it in Japan.
Okay. So it's going to be a part of the game. It's just whether or not it's going to come to the NA side.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay.
And
Okay,
that's the
gotcha.
question.
Mhm.
So we're waiting to see that. But should be exciting. That'll be a fun little thing. I also started Raincode, detective mystery stories or whatever. The latest game by the people who made Danganronpa, um, which is super anime in the like. Man, they do very extreme stuff in these games. You're very like right moment to moment. You're just like that's so fucking anime. Like in their old Danganronpa games, in Zanki Zero, that's so anime. Like what's going on here? And I'm happy to tell everyone that after playing one case of Raincode, it has not changed. I cannot go
Yes.
5 minutes without being like, "Holy cow, that's anime," or like just trying to solve this murder mystery, and I'm like, "Really?" Just
Spike
like,
Chunsoft doing more Spike Chunsoft things.
yeah, exactly. Do I think it's better than the other two games? I'm like I said, I'm one case in. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt because that was just the first case. But after one case, which I'm billing as the tutorial case, it's probably my least favorite game that they've released so far. But I need to get that second case under my belt. The second case seems infinitely more interesting, so we'll see how that goes. It's got all the crazy like Danganronpa character designs. Um, they're 3D models now, so like you get to see them doing all that wackadoo stuff, uh, and you get to solve murders. So that's cool. The murder case I'm on is called the Nailman murders, and it's essentially like apparently every murder is a locked room mystery. So like there was no way in or out,
Mm.
supposedly. Um, in like the murders that this person did, and then there were nails strewn about the room. That's how like this person like killed their victims, and so we're trying to like figure out who this is. Um, and then the last thing that's like I haven't done anything quite yet at anime adjacent with this thing, but I did go to a friend's birthday. Well, Sutenchi's birthday yesterday, and Travis's, and I was just hanging around. We played drinking games. We rode the bus, but with Spy Family, Spy Family cards. We were using Spy Family playing cards, and so got goons to ride the bus. And in my drunken stupor, we started talking about anime and manga. The fourth place contestant of CEO, Sticky Fingers, was there, and I was asking him what he's reading these days, or is he watching anything? And he's started JJK because that most recently started, and I'm very excited to get started on that. And then
I'll watch that tonight.
We somehow got started on just some like other good ones, and they were disappointed that I haven't watched them, which is like fair enough. I gotta pick up on some of these things. And one they brought up was Doro Hedoro. Yeah,
this guy used to be really high on that.
He still is.
He still is? Okay.
He said that's like easily top 3. Doro Hedoro.
That sounds right for him.
Tells like a complete story. They actually encouraged me to watch the anime first and then read the manga. They think both are peak. But the cool thing is that you can like watch the anime and then like get its source material. And so I don't know. I think that's gonna be relatively high on the list of things that I watch in the future. Of course, Sutenchi was there, Carrie, and he wants me to watch the second season of Rent a Girlfriend, so I'm gonna get on that. And then I'm trying to think if there's anything else, any other anime that was brought up. I think a couple from Travis, but I never remember the ones that Travis told me. So I'm just like, I'm probably gonna ping him and be like, hey, what's the anime you want me to watch? And then Review Starlight I also want to watch.
I was about to say Review Starlight sounds like a recommendation from Travis.
Yeah, he loves Review Starlight. Honestly, I feel like I will love Review Starlight. That's just like a landmine waiting to happen.
What's the newer Gundam, G-Witch?
Oh yeah, he really wants me to watch G-Witch.
Yeah.
I also want to watch G-Witch. So I don't know. There's so much anime to watch.
Too much.
But and then I think that about rounds it out. So we can bust down the doors, travel to our own little happy island, and start talking about summertime rendering.
Happy Island, you say?
Yes, that's what it is. A happy island.
Yes, island.
So
alrighty then.
In every parallel universe.
In every parallel universe, there's an island. So, I'm gonna start with the usual question. No surprises here. Rob, why did you pick this anime?
I picked it because it's been recommended to me like since it aired.
Okay.
Which I mean, it's fairly new, right? Because it aired last year, like later last year.
Yeah.
And it was one of those deals where every once in a while, like a couple friends will check in on me and just like, have you seen Summertime Rendering yet? And I'm like, no, I haven't seen it yet. And they're like, you need to watch this right now. I'm like, I don't have time. But the one thing that they kept telling me is like, just don't look anything up about it. Just go into it. Eventually get to it when you do. Just go into it blind. And I was like, all right, sure.
Yeah.
Just never had the time to do it. And then finally, when it came to my turn to pick, I kind of panicked because I didn't have anything prepped.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I guess it's time. And then like you two had
It's
picked that you guys hadn't
summertime?
seen before. It's summertime. We're rendering a podcast. It's like, all right, this
Are you
is
happy that
first.
you panicked and then you ended up
Perfect
pulling
face.
you end up pulling that one out of the hat?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, this show's a ride, man.
Excellent panic move, I must say.
I've seen a lot worse panic moves, and this one was an immaculately chosen one. And I think that was the so you talk about like avoiding spoilers and stuff like that. I think that was one of the benefits that I had I mentioned that like with this show it feels a little less known.
You don't hear anybody talk about it much.
And so
like it doesn't really come up.
And so luckily it's easy to avoid spoilers.
Yeah.
There could be so many spoilers for the show.
Because
It's
even when it was airing, I feel
yeah,
like it was still kind of like subtly talked about. Like I don't know what season it aired, but I'm pretty sure it got overshadowed by like several other things, and it was just in the background. You would just hear people like, "Have y'all checked out Summertime Rendering? This thing's kind of hot."
yeah.
You know.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it was pretty easy just to avoid all talk about it. And then once the season's over, it's like then it just goes into the shadow realm, and then nobody's gonna talk about it. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Life
I
moves
think
on.
the main reason that it was not really talked about was because it was so inaccessible.
I think
that
yeah,
too.
that's what I was thinking. Like
Because like originally it was on Disney Plus,
now it's not
which
even
is
there anymore.
and now it's not there, and now you got to go to Hulu
Now you
for
got to
it.
go to Hulu.
I feel like it was in the early days, perhaps, of like Disney Plus too.
It
So
was, yeah.
a lot of people are just like, I can't justify yet another subscription.
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yep. Correct. Um, and that's such a shame because it's, in my opinion, a little bit of a hidden treasure.
Hmm.
Um, I thoroughly enjoyed this thing from start to finish. Um, I love twists and turns. I love deceit. If you guys have ever played games of deceit with me, I love I love stuff like that. Um,
Asher, I heard you love Among Us.
I do love Amogus.
Hmm. Hmm.
But of course that's very general. That's very general. It generalizes it a lot. Like there's so much more to this. Um, I guess like where we could start in so many places. We could start at the characters. We could start at the story. We can start at its like references because it feels like this references so many things. They even talk about like some of the other like literary works, like real life literary works exist in this world. Like what's it called? The Strange Life of Ivan Osokin. Um,
Hmm.
that like book is mentioned in the very last episode. Um, which is a story about it's a sci-fi story about someone who keeps going back in time. Um, but they realize it's harder than they thought to change the past.
Hmm.
Like it's not so simple to change the past because if you're familiar with the concept, like time is a time is a flowing river that like if you just throw a pebble in it and disrupt it, it's still gonna flow in the same direction. So you have to really like shake it up to like really alter it. Um, and like what he ultimately takes out of the story is that uh, there's a little bit like more accountability to the self if you want to like succeed in changing anything from the past. Um,
Hmm.
and so it's interesting that that story is brought up at the end of all stories because I feel like there's so many stories it like the show kind of pulls from, but that doesn't detract from the show. The show is so quintessentially itself. It's so
Yeah.
quintessentially summertime rendering, but I think there's also like a lot of like appreciation for I think the greats that came before it.
Hmm.
Um, they mention like Event Horizons, you know, like there's just I don't know. I guess we could start with that. I I feel like I've taken in so many references in this show. Uh, have you? Did you guys feel the same, or is it just me?
So I feel like this is a better question for you guys,
Hmm.
because I don't really take in like a lot of either movies or books.
Hmm.
So like a lot of the stuff that it references in those fields like is kind of lost on me, but like I get like that feeling like when people describe things of like Twin Peaks and stuff, I'm like I could see that here,
Yeah.
right? Even though I've never watched it, but like I get the idea behind it,
Hmm.
right? But I could see where it would pull like from a bunch of different things and make it its own. But was there
Hmm.
anything specific that stuck out to you guys?
Um, I I don't think I get a lot of the references, honestly. I don't know
Hmm.
what Asher thinks it's referencing. I kind of got some similarities. I mean, obviously the big thing is time travel.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Um, the one of the questions is whether it's scientific or magical
Hmm.
is one that comes up.
It
But I
blends
do
the
have a
line. It blurs the line between the
it
two.
does. And I've been reading actually quite a few fantasy stories that have a big question mark in your head of actually is this supposed to be a fantasy world or is this the actual world? And there's just been so many developments in technology
Hmm.
that we've accidentally reverted back to what seems to be like a prehistoric, like a not prehistoric, like a medieval-esque time.
Hmm.
So there's a couple of thoughts there, but I'm curious what references you got from it, Asher, and maybe we can even go back and forth like one for one, just to go like
I
two
feel
examples.
I certainly feel like a Twin Peaks type of thing. I think the countryside, small town aspect of it, um, has a very like, I guess, weirdly Twin Peaks energy to it. Especially like as some of the like when the show starts incorporating jokes, like it's
So for my reference, what is Twin Peaks?
oh, okay. So Twin Peaks is a show that was made by David Lynch, um, and it takes place in the town of Twin Peaks, which is this like American town, like small town, where just kind of weird stuff happens. Know that Twin Peaks is like the precursor to like X-Files, and then like Gravity Falls. Like Gravity Falls is baby's first Twin Peaks. Is like the best way to like describe it. And it has this like kind of dread to it, but it also has a weirdness and then sometimes like this off kilter humor. And so like I think of that humor in scenes of summertime rendering, like these monsters are like horrifying, right? We've established like how horrifying they are, especially like in the first half of the entire thing. I'm just like, damn, the shit that they're doing is so scary. And then eventually we reach a point where we've like known these monsters for a long time, and then they're eating dinner, and you have Shide like eating like with his forearms like eating like a family dinner. And I could not help but bust out laughing. That kind of like offbeat humor that just kind of comes out of nowhere with the monsters that we've come to fear, that's a little bit of a Twin Peaks energy. And
He even says pass the salt or something.
Yeah, exactly. He says something like so goofy, and I'm like, but not, and that's not like a bad thing. It's just like it's such a fun way to break the like the kind of like horrifying roller coaster that we've been on to get like a little bit of a breather. And Twin Peaks does that, and I couldn't help but feel like it's Twin Peaks because of like the character that comes back to like this town that has a history of weird stuff happening, but now the weird stuff is actually like engaging like a lot more. And specifically the character is just like sucked into it like right away. Like he changed right away upon entering the island. And so like I got that. I couldn't help but think like, did these people play Alan Wake when they like wrote this story? Are you familiar with that one? So Alan Wake is a game, and very obviously this person played games because they fucking talk about Final Fantasy VII and boss fights at the
really funny
at the end of the game. But Alan Wake, heavily inspired by Twin Peaks, is about an author who sees shadows. So he like comes back. I don't remember the name of his town, but he comes back to his town and he sees these like shadow people. They take on these like humanoid forms, and he has to like shine flashlights at them to dispel the shadows and stuff like that. And he's also an author, and so like I couldn't help but like with Hizuru being like, oh, this is an author. A lot of her like stuff that she gets involved with seem to be the root of her stories, just like Alan Wake. And I couldn't help but be like, I think they're doing an Alan Wake thing here, but it's also still so summertime rendering, you know, like it's so weird. I don't feel so sure or so certain that these are like direct, you know, references to these things, but I can't help but feel these references, you know. I feel Lovecraft references, but I feel like so many horror things feel Lovecraft references. When they're entering the final world, I can't remember the name of that final world, but didn't I have a conversation on the cast with you guys prior about like people wanting to return to the womb, that like entire concept? And so like I couldn't help.
Dude.
Huh? Yup. Couldn't help. And his entire thematic is about the mother thing. He's talking about like his mother and like where that's all revolving around that stuff, and I couldn't help but think about the psychological aspects of that stuff, especially like when he comes back in and he's got the umbilical cord baby attached to him. It's like it's so sick. Like I ate that shit up, and so that's why I wanted to see if you guys like had any maybe even more like references that I was thinking of. Of course, I'm actively looking for that, so like I completely get if there isn't like as many of that. But me, I was eating good, in terms of like stuff like
the
that.
only thing that came to mind is when I saw the shoulder baby, I was just like, this is just Death Stranding.
Yeah, it's Death Stranding. It's just Death Stranding.
There's a baby attached, giving abilities to this person. Okay.
And there's also a whale washed up on that beach.
And there's a beach whale.
That's
All
Death
we need is
Stranding.
naked Norman Reedus, and we're good.
That right? Isn't that what like what is it called when a whale is
Beached.
when a whale is beached? Isn't it like stranding? Isn't it like a stranding thing?
Is there an actual term?
I think there's an
thought it
actual
was
term.
I thought it was just beached. You're right.
I mean, beached
Is there
whale,
another
yeah,
term for it?
but I feel like there is
Drowning
a
on
term.
land.
So I wouldn't be surprised if it pulled from all these things and was just like, I want to make this like mess of a thing, but not be messy about it. Because like I think there's like so many ideas there, and it's easy like if they were referencing to be messy, but I don't think it was that messy. At least I thought I was like picking up on stuff like consistently.
So on my side, I got references to Wicker Man, oddly.
Oh, the Wicker Man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which has like a culty aspect to it, like, right? Like.
And yes, that is one of the main things. But my thought here was a stranger or a foreigner, even if you have some sort of connection to this place. So, and it actually has like direct parallels to the movie from, I guess the Nick Cage one is the only one I've seen.
That's the one with the bees, right?
Yeah.
Very good.
He's on the boat coming to the island. He's like in a half awakened stupor, a lot of it because he's taking a lot of drugs because he's like traumatized from his recent ordeal. He has visions of the girl and can't decipher whether like he's actually seeing her or if it's just a vision. That comes up a lot. He becomes pretty well known as the longer he spends on the island. Like easily recognized, but and in a way a sort of celebrity because they're all like, whoa, you, hey, it's you, less positive in Wicker Man than it is here. He's like a familiar face coming home, but he is still treated like a foreigner, like, oh, you even sound funny, like you're talking like a Tokyo accent now. So that's one of the things there. I think it's the coming home and not really knowing where home is feeling for him, because he left to make a new home and in the process did have to come visit home. But what was home now, especially without the girl he left in the first place for. So there's that. And then the other part is a lot of themes of regret throughout the whole thing. So this is why we keep going through the time loop, because I made a mistake again. Oh crap, I fucked that one up again. I messed up again, gotta redo it. Right up images of suicide, because that's the nature of how he resets. Like a video game in a weird way.
Persona. Persona 3.
Yep. There's also references to war.
There were, and that surprised me, but also, I don't know, I was very enthralled by seeing that kind of trauma from a character who's lived that timeline.
Yes, over and over. So he's seen mass genocide. He's seen, even if it just got, reset, he's still seen it. The pain of it is still there. There's a lot of themes that I see in a lot of anime about regret of what led to this. How did we get here? And I actually had a conversation with someone recently about, they were like, man, I can't believe they planned D-Day and like it just went to absolute garbage.
Yeah.
And there was, and I think I'm bringing up D-Day because they made a lot of references that look like the technology of 1940s and that warfare,
Hmm.
new to the time. Um, it's also the first modern war that we stopped doing the tactic of I'll meet you here and we'll have a showdown, okay?
Yeah.
At this time, this place, you don't know when they're going to show up. We didn't have the Geneva Conventions yet to say, hey, not on this holiday,
Yep.
respect this time, and all stuff like that. Um, but in the plan, someone had brought up like, oh yeah, D-Day. I can't believe they planned that out by military professionals and they still everyone just completely died. They messed it up, and I was like, actually, that was best case scenario.
Hmm.
So they planned out a whole bunch of different things, and this is kind of like the same thing that we see in summertime rendering. They planned out a whole bunch of different ways we could make this succeed, and each time you messed it up.
Yep.
And ultimately, what it took was a lot of sacrifice
Mhm.
to get to the universe that we wanted to, the ending that we wanted. Um, a lot of sacrifice,
A lot.
and that was what happened in D-Day. That was the best scenario they could come up with so that it minimized the deaths, which you can tell there was still a lot of death, but that was the best case scenario. And without it, we wouldn't have. It was a turning point in the war. We might not have won at all if
Hmm.
we had lost D-Day. Um, but those are things that we forget about because we just have to run these scenarios and we just have to pick one. He had very little time to think about what he was going to do next. He had so much to remember,
Mhm.
He did.
um, and then a lot of different new factors come in too, that we learn new rules to this game essentially.
Hmm.
What I really liked is that after a certain point, I think it was Tokiko points it out, and it's just like you haven't slept.
Oh yeah.
Like he's been going through this so much, keeping track of everything that's going on in every timeline, and just like you see the bags under his eyes just starting to form over time. It's just like, bro, I didn't even like think about that until she pointed it out. I'm just like, oh shit, god damn,
Yeah.
how are you still functioning, sir? Like that's every time I felt like I had like a question on something, it was like it gave me an answer for it,
Yes.
right? Like Asher, we watched a couple episodes together, and I was just like, are they ever gonna touch on the fact that like there should be a second Ushio here,
Yeah.
right? And then like eventually we get to that point, and they're like, oh, we recognize that this is going to be a question. Here's your answer for that.
Yep.
I
Yep.
was like,
Yep.
okay, this turned out to be like a really well thought out show,
Yeah.
right? Despite how like insane or like messy it could feel, or how messy it could
Yeah.
have been, right? It's like, no, you guys thought this out pretty well. I'm impressed by the end of this, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say. Yeah. I would say like it ends very clean and like
Yeah.
I'm very content with the way it ends.
Mhm.
Um. Well. Okay. Then. Let's see what else we talked about like a little bit of those concepts and like yeah, we touched on the referential stuff. um let's see if there's any other concepts I could like think about. What do you like what did you guys think of, and I love this because I feel like we haven't had a character quite like him. um what did you guys think of the, at least since we started the podcast, of the villain of this series, Shide, the ultimate
Shide.
villain. He ends up being right. He ends up being the final guy. Um,
I love Shida.
yeah.
He was very entertaining
Hmm.
and pretty threatening and like it was fun because like at some points he's like very like playful, right? Like he's going along with it, and it's just like kind of just here just to do it, right? Just to
Hmm.
like fuck with them. And then there's moments where like he recognizes how serious this is, and he will just like take immediate action. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And in those moments, like it catches the viewer like us off guard and stuff like that too, right?
Hmm.
So like I keep thinking about the moment where like they're in the gym, right?
Hmm.
Our main character does like the big speech and they're like planning whatever, and then it's just like um Nezu gets ambushed, and then it's just like boop, instant reset. It's
Yeah.
just like they came out and they're just like, no, we're putting it into this right now. And it's just like blank. He wakes up, wait, how'd I get here? And we're just like, what?
That was crazy.
You know, and it's moments like that where I'm just like, I'm really impressed by the villain because I don't know what he's gonna do, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm always caught off guard on like, is he going to take immediate action now? Is he going to like wait on this? Like very, very clever, you know?
Mhm.
I really enjoy this presence.
What did you think of Shide, Jenny?
Um, they took their time
Mm-hmm.
developing
They
him.
really did. He doesn't develop that like kind of
Mm-mm.
truly
We're
sinister like background energy until like he felt like muscle for
Yeah.
a lot of the series.
Yeah, we were more worried about the little
Heine.
Yeah.
Heine,
Yeah.
yeah, the whole
Mm-hmm.
time. Um because he just kind of let her take the wheel
Yep.
for a lot of it, be the face.
Mm-hmm.
And that's honestly a lot more scary
Yeah.
Yeah.
when the villain isn't obvious.
Yes.
Because that's the main hubris of a villain is the narcissism.
Hmm.
So they want to be at the forefront,
Yeah.
putting their like, you'll remember this face.
Hmm. Yup. But
Yeah,
Shide
don't
wasn't like
forget.
that.
No,
Mm-mm.
no.
Mm-mm.
In fact, he enjoyed looking like a normal person.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
enjoyed blending in,
Hmm.
and that made him all the more scary because we had spent all this time trying to get to understand Hine, and it was like, okay, so you're also running out of time, and you just now realized what you need to take on the dungeon.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and then you realize that she also wasn't a weakness to him either, and that makes it even more, concerning because you're like, crap. Now what is his weakness? And they struggled to find it.
They did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like big time struggled to find it. Like not even like as I'm watching this, usually I can kind of get an idea of like, okay, this is probably the key. Like they need to pull these resources together, get to, put their heads together right now, look at the real picture of things. And then I was still like, I'm not really sure what his weakness is still. And I think we have like maybe one more. I know they kept saying that. One more. Guys, one more time. It's like Jackie Chan Adventures. One more thing.
Yep, yep, yep. God, I love that. It's I will. He had me hooked, so I liked him. Generally speaking, I thought he was terrifying. Um, I thought he's very strong, and just like you guys, it was like, man, how are we gonna how are we gonna sort this problem out, this problem child, and he really got me. This is one of my favorite concepts because my top 5 movies of all time deals with this concept. He he asked the main character. He was like, "Do you believe?" They were having the confrontation, I guess, in his house. I think at this point it was he wasn't protected by the shadow armor. Like I think it was just like normal human him, and he asked like, "Is there value in the copy? Do copies have value?" And that's one of my favorite one of my favorite films of all time is called Certified Copy, and the entire like narrative of that film is that there's someone who wrote a book. It's called Certified Copy, and he argues that copies carry just as much weight as the original. It's just that we as a society have deemed copies inferior. So like if you saw a picture of the Mona Lisa, you can get as much from the original Mona Lisa as you can from looking at a copy. That was his argument. And then the woman who attends his like lecture, she's an original art collector, so she disagrees. And then they go on a walk through Sicily, and then like it's this entire like conversation piece about that. But I love that stuff, especially as someone who like loved to write a lot of works, going through college and stuff. That was a lot of stories that I had read growing up, but like kind of changed in my perspective, like put through the Asher filter. And I'm always thinking about like what values do copies hold, and it's that question is so interesting at that point of the anime because we're starting to get value to, or we've had value for a long time for Ushio,
Lucia.
the like copy of Ushio, and then like we're starting to get value in like the copy of Mio too, and it's like the villain asks that question, but like it turns out the main character kind of understands, or like I think the main character at some level sees eye to eye to him, you know, at least based on their actions and the way they're behaving with the copies that they know. And that made me go, that's sick. You know, like I'm just nodding my head at this scene. I'm like, that's sick. What's up, Jenny?
So there's a Black Mirror episode that's very similar to that,
Mm-hmm.
and then we talk about soul
right.
splitting too.
Mm-hmm.
So and then that's usually what people will like define it as, like the original is the only thing that's worth it. It's
Yeah.
because there's a soul in it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that it develops its own memories.
Yes.
But there was a lot of things that made you question all. It was almost like it was arguing with you as soon as you kind of came up with your answer of like, the copy does not matter.
Yeah, yeah.
Repeatedly, I'm like, it does because.
Does it?
Yeah.
Like one of them is his the Mio, the second one you brought up,
Yes.
the new one that came about. She has a different personality.
She does.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, but she still is like, I get it, I'm inferior, it's
She's
fine.
arguably a better version because she was the one that was like, girl, just do it.
She's very
Yeah.
honest, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
she's very like she's not hiding who she is or putting on a front. It's like this is internally this is Mia. Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in a way, the copy became better, which is fun.
Yeah.
This is and then the Yushio copy was a superhero.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
A really smart, loving one, you know, so still the same energy. I love that everyone looked at her and said, this is without a doubt, you know, Yushio.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh man, like even on the phone, she talks to her sister and she's like, could have sworn I heard my sister's voice on the other line.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. And then obviously we can see when the two copies work together, how strong they can become
Mhm.
as well.
I mean, think about
Um,
Hizuna and her. It's a twin brother. So, arguably, that's also like, you know, okay, it's a copy, but it's
copy.
also like a very different kind of copy. You
Yeah.
know, the
This
show.
was by nature. Duh.
The show isn't like holding back. Like it pushes its concepts to like the limit, and it has different approaches to how it pushes those concepts. Whether it's like in combat, whether it is familial, the twins, or whether it's like even the more slice of lifey aspects, like you like a boy, you know, like tell him how you feel, and I don't know, man, that's so cool.
You also had what was it? So's mother ultimately in the end as well, right?
Yup.
Like the whole thing around her. Yeah, it's very cool.
How goofy was it that those babies were named Rosencrantz and Guildenstern?
Oh my god.
What is the significance of that? I actually realized that too, and I couldn't figure out.
Well,
What
Rosencrantz,
was this?
I couldn't find anything beyond this. I feel like there should be something more than that. But from what I know of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, they're supposed to represent deceit. So, considering Tokiko is one of the major, like, deceit points of the show, it makes sense why those babies are named Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. But then, like, once she turns, it's like, I don't know what the point of it is of these babies being named Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
I was so mad she summons them with pacifiers.
Yeah.
I was losing my mind because, like, actually, you pointed it out. Like one of the last episodes that we watched together.
Yeah.
You pointed out like she used pacifiers. I was like, what? I didn't catch that. And then she did it again later when I was watching on my own. And I was just like, he's fucking right. Why?
A very cool character.
Mhm.
Actually, I mean, God, we can go down the list of characters. Like,
I think there's a very clear group
yeah.
that we keep coming back to. I was actually not sure that the brother or the best friend would come in again.
Hmm.
I feel like he'd be a very side character that would just like,
Yeah.
Which one? So?
So
Yeah.
mm-hmm. Yeah. His sister, I also thought would be a very side character. The
I don't know. She had that look. Anytime there's a character where you can't see their eyes,
and
I'm
open
just
their
like,
eyes.
yeah. I'm just like,
Yeah.
mm-mm.
Opens it to be threatening.
Yeah, there's something here. I
Yep.
definitely thought So would be throwaway. I thought he
Yeah.
would just be a constant casualty.
No, poor guy. Kind of lived in the, like, didn't even realize that he was never gonna be the person to his father. You know, like, I don't know. It was really
I
interesting.
wouldn't want to be the person.
Well, you wouldn't want to,
Yeah.
but like, but it was one of those things that it was like, I think in terms of like, everyone, including us, the audience, thought he was a throwaway side character.
Yeah, like his family basically like
You know,
thought nothing
people
of
in the
him.
show
Like,
thought that.
he kept trying to confess to Mio, and she wasn't reciprocating that either. So like, Mans was taking L's all over the place.
Mans wasn't the main character. Why would Mio confess to him?
Exactly.
Or why would she accept the Mio confession? She was gunning for the main booty.
In no parallel universe, Mio ever says yes.
Yeah. Oh. That's so sad.
If we talk about the characters, then I would love to talk about that final, like how it ended, like what the timeline we left off on. But yeah, I think the characters would be fantastic to explore because every single one of them surprises you with how they.
It's such an
go about.
ensemble cast.
Yeah.
It feels like every character has their moment. At least from the ones that we like, that are played up. Minus the cop. The cop was goofing. But
He was the true comic relief.
he was a true comic relief. But everybody else, like, let's see, I got them written down. We got Shinpei, we got Ushio, we got Mio, both Mios, both Ushios, Hizuru, So, Tokiko, Nezu, the guy with the eye patch, Heine, and then Ryunosuke, right? Like, it's interesting how Hizuru and Ryunosuke, like, how their expertise, I guess, and what they each bring to the table. And it's cool with all these characters because I think with a lot of them it is a very like, until it's confirmed, it feels like every character is hiding something. And even like once you know if they're a shadow or not, even once you find out that they're not a shadow, it still feels like they're hiding something. You
I
know?
was suspicious of everybody.
Yeah.
Trust nobody. Like original Mio included.
Like remember when Tokiko like got her shadow shot, and then it was like, "Ha, you idiots!" Like I was wondering, like, are we gonna have a human that like works with the shadows? And why would they be working with the shadows? And then like you get the family reveal stuff, you know, the very specifically family reveal. The people who are like clinging on to, you know, it's the final. It's Kingpin and Spider-Man. You know, like he's not ready. They're not ready to let go. You know, and this is an opportunity to keep it going, even though it's a fabrication. You know, like, is it even real at the end of the day? So I don't know. It's were there characters that you guys gravitated to particularly, or do you like, do you just like love everyone? Jenny's thinking. She's processing.
that phase, I was ready to hear something.
Yeah, I was ready to hear something too.
I was like, I didn't get called on. Hold.
Oh no. Go for it.
I didn't love every character.
Okay.
I have to say that.
I want to hear. I actually want to hear the ones that you don't like. Who do you not like from our major players?
Actually, between the twins, I can never remember their names perfectly.
Hizuru is the girl.
Hizuru. Hizuru. I wasn't crazy about her. there was a lot of things that she was detail oriented
Mm-hmm.
and obviously very competent in a lot of things, good at scheming and planning.
Yeah.
And I'm like, girl, get your fitness up. How long have you been sharing a body with your brother and you still can't keep up?
You would think, right?
Mm-hmm.
By this point, she would be
Yeah.
good.
Right.
Yeah.
Like what he puts you through. I would be like, day 2, I'm like, oh, I gotta get to the gym. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
something. I mean, you
Yeah.
start at 14 years old and then 14 years later, come on. You had time. Anyway,
True.
so there was some things that I would watch her neglect that I'd be like, ah, nope, I'm disappointed in you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Mio also got disappointed in her a good bit.
Which one? The
Um,
original or the
real
copy or
original.
both?
Yeah.
Okay. OG Mio. Okay.
Original. Um, she clung to her innocence
Mm-hmm.
to be ignorant um, for pretty much the entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there were things that I was like, man, you really like. She wants to say like, she really cared. Like the whole reason they went to the mountain in the first place was because they were like, oh, the little girl that was rescued, her whole family's gone missing. I need to go find them and check on them or whatever. And she doesn't realize like how different the girl is now that she's a shadow. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
like when you see her in real, like when they do flashbacks or whatever, and you see like how she really is, like that little girl is.
Yeah.
You're like, dude, her personality is completely different. How do you not realize like something's kind of off here? Even
Right.
I get it, she's traumatized, she's like quiet or whatever. But a child like that would still she's got a lot of fire in her.
Mm-hmm.
So she would. I just don't feel like it was characteristic that she just goes completely quiet and then no one even knows how to talk to her anymore. And I was like, these kids were all very close, and
Mm-hmm.
they could have easily probably all worked together to figure out how do we pull her out of her shell or find out she's a shadow.
Yeah.
Um, she also held off a lot on her emotions, and she kept saying like, oh, and I get it, she's supposed to be young, she's supposed to have that like, oh, forbidden, I'm not supposed to, and I'm pretty sure he's in love with my sister, but um she held off on it way too much. I felt like that should have probably happened, just gotten it over with earlier on, but
Yeah.
I guess we just keep doing the time loop, so who knows, maybe for that it was like 3 days since he got back. um
I'm looking at my imaginary camera and it's like, man, you never confessed. This is in character. I was like, I get it, Mio. Don't worry. If Jenny ain't got you, I got you.
I agree with you on Mio though. Like she was definitely like lackluster of everybody, right? It made me just really appreciate Shadow Mio's appearance more. Like once she really came back, right? Because like without Shadow Mio being there, I think Mio would have like annoyed me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't have another version of her that was at least more upfront and honest about who she is. You know?
Yeah.
yeah um
Incredibly competent. She took some hits.
yeah.
She took
Mhm.
quite a few.
So.
I felt like they could have done more with the one-eyed guy.
Nezu.
Nezu? Gramps?
He was pretty like just straightforward, very two-dimensional.
Yeah, pretty two-dimensional character.
Yeah, but I guess everyone can't be like super crazy, like developed.
Yeah. Like I appreciate like them going into like his what was it, his wife or whatever that he had that he was still kind of clinging on to. I was like, okay, I appreciate what you're doing here for him at this stage.
Yeah.
But I do wish they did more with him overall throughout the whole thing.
Mhm.
So I'm like, he could have been really cool, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, like how'd you become such a good sniper?
Yeah, right. Like there has to be something here. Like you must have a story, sir.
Right. I think it was kind of a half. It was probably the one half-ass thing that I felt the show did, which was give him a wife. Like now.
And
I could have just done without that completely.
Right.
yeah, I think so. I think I agree with you there. It was like just kind of like he felt
He's just kind of like ham-fisting it in there. You know?
Yeah, it was like wedged in there. Like, wait, where's he going? There's a shadow here, and he's like, this has been my wife the whole time. Now I'm ready to let her go. I was like, you've done nothing that makes me tell you that you're ready to let her go, but also I didn't know you even had her in the first place. Right. So, you know, that's fine.
We could have done a lot more here to build this to this.
To build to that moment, and that's a very right. We see that theme all the time in like zombie movies, like that exact moment. But for it to be like kind of out of nowhere with a character that we don't really get any like time with, it's certainly like a okay. You know, you have more going on than the average Joe Schmo throwaway side character, but and he's cool. Like when he does like stuff, it's very cool. But let's not play around and pretend like he's carrying the emotional brunt of anything. You know, there's a reason we don't see him in that montage of the second OP of all the characters crying. You know, so.
Was there any characters for you, Asher, that you wanted to like point out?
Well, as a deceit lover, I do really like Tokiko. Tokiko, not only as a deceit lover but as a sibling, with expectations from parents. I felt her to the core. You know, like it was a very like, oh man.
When she goes off on So, it's like you feel it.
Yeah, you feel
like
it.
It hurts.
And I cannot help but like think like, damn, you know, just like just really as like that person, and so like, and yeah, and as a person who like. In a situation like that, I fully believe I would be as reserved and as quiet as her, as biding my time as her, and then before it's too late because someone played the game better, you know, like it's one of those things. So I really like her. I really like the final. I really like Shide. I thought Shide was so good. Just because of like the history that Shide has gone through, and just kind of like the final plays that were made by that character, and how like truly terrifying he was. Because like, I think like what are some of the other shows that we watched and like who were their villains, right? Because like Paranoid Agent, I could think of like Lil Slugger. Is like terrifying, but he's like very conceptual.
Yeah.
But like this guy was like a thing that was like physically harming people, but was also like playing around with like he's playing the game, right?
Yeah.
And has been playing the game for a long time. So it's just like, how do they overcome this? That like feeling and weight. It's just cool to see it like. Easily maybe our most compelling villain that we've had in our 10 episodes of like watching stuff, and honestly one of the most compelling villains that I've seen in any anime I've watched, arguably, you know.
I was gonna say he goes down as one of my favorites.
Yeah,
honestly, like I would have to like really sit down and think and like put up a list of villains, but like I think he easily like is up there
as a person who has like gone through like some bad dropped balls. Like, what's his name from Bleach? How can we forget? Aizen. Or like, what's his name from Sword Art? Like, there have been some bad dropped balls in terms of, like, villains. And this one was like, whoa, I was not expecting to be like, this is one of the best villains in anime that I've seen, and I think he benefits from having like a complete story, being 25. It's to be fair, those other ones had like shonen length, you know, arcs, and I guess they had to have a villain that had to last in that time.
Yeah,
but I don't know, man. I say One Piece villains be making it last, you know, like they be making really good villains for like hundreds of episodes, so you can't tell me that it's not possible.
but that's like the exception.
That's true. It might be more of the exception rather than the rule. And so this villain had the perfect amount of time and to develop, especially like as kind of like a faceless monster, leading up to like having a face, to having these like intentions, and to having like their own like thoughts that, you know, upon those like momentous reveals, actually maybe he's seeing eye to eye with these characters. They just didn't realize it up until this point, you know. So I really like that character. I think it's a great main character.
I was gonna say Shinpei.
Yeah, I like this main character.
I love that boy.
I think what I like about him is that he was not afraid to like understand when it was time to let other people shine. You know, like this is their time to play. He wasn't like the guy who was solving everything. He wasn't like a Mary Sue. He was so incredibly flawed, and he needed like he had information, but he needed help. You know, he absolutely needed help. And it was just, I don't know, it was sick to see him just kind of, you know, leaning on Ushio. And like kind of that entire interaction, because like, right, it's fast. I was wondering what we were getting into with this title. I was wondering what we were getting into with the title, like Summertime Rendering. And like, because when I think of like summertime, I think of like vacation. I think of like, you know, slice of lifey type things. And for it to like be this like horror story, time travel, and then you have this character who has the opportunity to repeat this time loop with a girl that he has like regrets about. And then like, right, the final resolution is that they get the summer back. They get the summer back, and they get it in a way that is like, now that like Shinpei knows all these things, he can like act upon it. Because like, if maybe all of that didn't happen, he would have never acted upon it in such a way, you know? Do you guys think he would have acted upon it in like that way if all that stuff didn't happen?
Not at all.
Yeah.
No.
Not at all.
A lot of the stuff only happened because they had the opportunity to. They had the scenario that forced them.
Yeah, to acknowledge these things. And I always think that's like the best. I think those are like. I came from like the school of like there are only two kinds of stories. There's you have to either insert the ordinary into the extraordinary. So like if you have a fantasy setting like Lord of the Rings, you have to bring out the humanity in those characters, and then we can really resonate with that. And then vice versa, you bring the extraordinary into the ordinary. And when you have this like what would normally be an ordinary scenario, a vacation back home, and it has these extraordinary circumstances, you know, and then it fixes the ordinary, like things that people can absolutely resonate with, and that's like the regret of not telling someone how you feel about them, and just going through like life and stuff like that. Like the final episode is called I'm Home, right? And we were just talking about like how the character feels and what is home, especially like after like leaving for Tokyo. It's a neat resolution. it's a beautiful like sweet resolution. And so I don't know, man. This show really hit that stuff hard. I love the kind of like intimate details for it. What about y'all? Y'all got anything else to say about that kind of stuff?
No, you kind of summed it up for me, honestly. Like Shinpei was definitely like my favorite character, like one of my favorite MCs, just like in general for a really long time.
Yeah.
Pretty much for everything that you stated, right?
Yeah.
In like I love that he is he's forced to make like these decisions. He's forced to adapt,
Yep.
right? And like,
And he makes wrong
really-
decisions.
and he makes wrong decisions, and like,
Yeah.
he acknowledges that, and like he tries to find like workarounds, and if it doesn't work out, thinks about it, what went wrong, how can we do it this way.
Yep.
You know, like he's very quick to adapt and evolve for whatever the situation calls for. And I love just seeing that progress throughout the entire thing up to like the final conclusion, right? Just a amazing character to watch. I was always in awe, just like, I love this boy.
He's
great.
a good boy. He's a
Yeah.
really good boy. And a really cool like dynamic between him and Ushio.
In this show, yeah.
What's it called? So what did you guys think of like this anime is so cool because I love things that do this. It's it blurs the line between fantasy and sci-fi, right? Because it's got the time travel aspects. We deal with the entire like spiritualism of like what the island worships. But then you have all these like things coming in like time travel and hacking and Event Horizon. Like are you guys familiar with Event Horizon? Like both as a concept and as a and as a pop culture reference.
Break it down for us.
Okay, so
I'm loosely familiar with it, but I want to ask your definition.
So, in terms of like a concept, it is like a point in time. I feel like I've written this down because I have a hard time. I have a hard time with the concept.
Right, right.
Let's see. Did I not write it down? That's embarrassing.
Oh,
It's like a It is when the observer can no longer be affected by the events that are taking place. So, they mention it as like his window is getting smaller and that he'll just end up in the void if he dies as an event horizon. He's a literal observer because he's got an eye, and like he'll no longer be playing the game if he makes this mistake, and that will be the event horizon. You know, it feels like a horizon that's constantly approaching, but then like if they play it correctly, the horizon like moves back down. That's an event horizon, and it's a pretty new term. It was like used in like sci-fi stuff in the 1950s. It eventually became a popular movie in the 90s that was the basis of things like Dead Space. Dead Space was created because of like the movie of Event Horizon, which also deals with people who like kind of go crazy and then you don't know who your like allies are. You know, it deals with that like kind of concepts, and a space station that was impacted by this like alien artifact, just like a Dead Space, a marker, and that's kind of like what happened here too. Like this island was kind of, you know, it turns out it wasn't. Well, I guess they never like said for sure, but what they believe is that like it was a creature from out of space, which is super Lovecraftian, by the way. It's very like the color out of space, and then it just like, and which yeah, actually, it's pretty much the color out of space. Are you guys familiar? Are you guys familiar with that story? Like it like lands on this like farm. It's like an alien that lands on this farm, and it starts like it would make like vegetables more vivid and like bigger. So like arguably like better versions of the original stuff, but then they were also like incredibly corrupt, and like as people like were consuming these vegetables and being affected by it, they were like becoming monsters.
I feel like I've heard stories like that are probably based off of this.
Yes.
Right? Like the idea behind that
yes.
is very familiar.
Absolutely.
I'm very familiar with Men in Black.
Yes, 100%.
Add sugar water.
Oh my god. And so like yeah, it's really cool to see. I love anything that like kind of blends the supernatural with sci-fi, I guess. Because I feel like, you know, it's the quote. This is not a great film, but I do love the quote of like, magic is just science that hasn't been explained yet. You know, that's from like the Thor movies. And I'm just like, he's got kind of a point there. Like, like that's what like some of that stuff felt like. Like, it's easy to see why, like, when this alien landed there, if that's what happened, and then, it does this thing that we just don't understand. It copies like a person, and then we're just like, oh, that's a god, or that's like magic. It's like a classic scenario. Did the latest Digimon game dealt with that? Digimon Survive dealt with that concept too. They don't even call them Digimon because like in the old days they were spirits, and they've always known them as spirits,
or gods of the mountain.
Exactly. So it feels like a very believable reaction, when all this stuff goes down. Let's see.
Touching on like the time loop aspect of it, I really appreciated the rules around it in terms of like every time he comes back later. Like I like that it just wasn't you just restarting the entire day, so start from the beginning.
You would feel infinitely strong if that was the case, right? Like,
right?
Where's the stakes here?
Yeah, and you see that a lot with like time looping in shows and stuff like that. It's just like we get the whole day again, or Endless 8. Though I love Endless 8 for Haruhi.
We love Endless 8.
We love Endless 8.
We love it. I love that Jenny's like, I can't wait to make Jenny watch Endless 8.
But it was really cool. It set stakes. It made every death like one. It was like a question of like, where is he gonna end up, right? So like us as the viewer is very like kind of concerned, like where's the starting point? And then for him, it's like the same deal. It even worse. He's just like, I need to make the most out of this run because I don't really know where I'm going to start, and I need all the information I can to adapt to wherever I get dropped off at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And eventually, like, he came to like a calculation to where like he can estimate where he's going to be, but still not fully 100% know. You know what I mean? And that, I found that really interesting.
Yeah. He had to try to understand the game that he was playing.
Yeah. He's figuring out the rules as he goes.
Yeah.
And then you get the point where now the enemy can do it, and it's like, oh shit.
Yeah. They can make their appropriate adaptations.
Exactly.
So it's so cool that we're talking about this because I don't, and you're talking about that concept and stuff. I don't have a game plan for today, and that's because I would love to, when we find time, as a filler episode, play one of my favorite board games, and that's Tragedy Looper. Rob, you played Tragedy Looper, right?
Did I? No, I know of it.
You know of it. Have you played Tragedy Looper, Jenny?
Played it.
Have I told you about Tragedy Looper? It is amazing. And if you like summertime rendering, you will like Tragedy Looper. It's a board game. It's a 1v3 board game. And the 3 people who are on a team are trying to stop something bad from happening. The problem is that they don't know what they're trying to stop. The one person, the villain, knows what they're trying to do. And so like usually on the first run, the 3 players who are on a team, they will fail because they have no idea what they're doing.
Oh wait, we did play this.
Okay.
I do remember this. Yes.
Yeah.
I had to look at it. Yeah.
They have no idea what they're trying to do. The best way, the way I describe it is that one person is playing chess, and the other 3 people are trying to figure out what pieces they have, and then they get to play chess. But they're undergoing multiple time loops in order to get this right. So with each time loop, you have to figure out what changes each time, and you have to like adapt. And you're working together as 3 people, just like the people in Summertime Rendering, multiple people who are like working together, while the villain kind of like knows the majority of the rules already and what they're trying to achieve. And I think Summertime Rendering, or I think Tragedy Looper perfectly nails exactly what it feels like to go through summertime rendering. And so like I think that'll be a very fun like bit of content. We just have to figure out the third because obviously I'll play the villain for at least one round, at least the opening round. Um, but we'll need to figure out a third person to help you guys on your tragedy looping. Um, but yeah, it's once again a very simple like a classic sci-fi concept, but kind of like I put it up there with the fun like other time looping things that I at least I have enjoyed in the past. Like Edge of Tomorrow. Um, yeah, I love Edge of Tomorrow. I think Edge of Tomorrow is so cool because once again we have a character who's like figuring out what's happening as it's going on, right? Like he doesn't immediately understand the rules. Um, and then you get the stakes from when like there's a limit to this, or like this could happen, and then everything that you've suffered for the many times that you died, it won't matter. Can you imagine that stuff? So I don't know, it's really compelling. We mentioned earlier the kind of like so what did you guys think about like the bombing imagery once we got to this other world, and then like the most horrifying memory that like Heine could like bring up was that like
I was just caught off complete guard again
uh-huh
for what the show is throwing at me.
yeah
Right. And just equally horrified as well.
yeah
Right.
mm-hmm.
Like any time that stuff is referenced, right, it just kind of like puts me in a place, and I'm just like, I just kind of like feel the weight of it, and I'm just like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? In just like a very real way. Like
Yeah.
it's not like haha we're time looping, haha haha shadow people.
Mhm.
It's just like it just feels very real, and I mean obviously it has happened, right?
Yeah.
So it is a very real thing.
Mhm.
And they snuck it in there in a way that just I don't know.
It makes sense that it's like the most
Yeah.
horrifying memory, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Amongst all this other like supernatural shit, it's like this right here is just horrifying in so many different ways, both in universe for them and in reality for us,
I mean, think about it. If she is a god,
yeah.
Mhm.
right? This was her wards are offing themselves.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
could you imagine you have an ant farm, and you've been raising these ants, and you build them a little home, investing time. You watch them. You wake up, and watch them, check on them when you come back home from school or work,
Mhm.
and then they start eating each other.
Yeah.
Oh
You're
man.
like, oh, stop! Oh, gotta pull like this two pair apart, and you're just like you panic. And so even from that perspective of I have a lot of power,
Yeah.
this is still a terrifying memory.
Yeah.
We know that she's constantly trying to get back to her parents, so
Yep. Mhm.
this was how she lost them, right?
Yeah.
And then
What a sweet reveal.
yeah,
Yeah.
In a
yeah,
very sad way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah. And then I also feel like this the theme of regret was super strong in here.
Mhm.
I think they like anime references World War II a lot
Yeah.
to bring out the different emotions
Mhm.
and address the different emotions that come from this historical time when they weren't at their proudest.
Yeah.
And the regret is written all over it,
Yep.
right? How many people they made lose their families.
Mhm.
How and not even they made it, but like maybe there's even that feeling of loss of control and
Mhm.
feeling powerless. That's what it was for them too. Moment of powerlessness to also not be able to save everyone from losing their families.
Yep.
And that is, I think, what makes it this is what kind of brings it back to an anime. Reminds you like this is something that you're gonna keep seeing thematically in these kinds of stories. Is a reference to a time that just culturally speaks to them, and
Mhm.
this is a big one. We kind of see it a little bit in referenced in other ways too in other movies. Like we actually have already brought up Thor, but
Yeah.
also in the Silver Surfer and Scarlet Witch's story, like their background story. When they were kids from a war, an air raid.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's something that we'll keep seeing, and I think it took us a little bit out from the world.
Yeah.
You know, we kind of got a weird breath of fresh air, of like, okay, we've been thrown somewhere that we have no idea what to expect.
Yeah,
and
we
yet
weren't
so
sure what to
familiar,
expect. Yeah.
and yet so familiar.
Yeah, and then it was familiar, and then it was real, and then you're like, oh, the horror. Um,
The reality is
I
the
could,
horror.
I,
Oh no.
I couldn't
Oh,
help but
no.
think of, and I'm always gonna do this because I always reference everything. I couldn't help but think of, have you guys seen the film The Devil's Backbone?
I've heard of it.
So it's one of Guillermo del Toro's earlier films. And Guillermo del Toro reeks of that stuff. He loves referencing like Mexican history as like a backdrop to his fantasies. And The Devil's Backbone takes place in an orphanage. Actually, is it still? Yeah, it takes place in a orphanage, and in this orphanage there is, at the center of it, because there's like a center field, I guess, where like children can play. At the center of it is a bomb. There is just a bomb there that was dropped, but it never detonated. And has now like been dormant. They don't want to mess with it because like they're afraid of it.
Right.
But it's a ghost story, so like you start like seeing like children ghosts and stuff like that, and you're wondering like why. But there is that looming shadow of whatever happened during wartime, of the literal bomb that is like in the center of this place, and then also like whatever the ghost child is doing, and like it makes you wonder what happened here, and then like how did it stem from this like war that like occurred here. And I couldn't help but like feel like, you know, those emotions were so strong, they were carried over with this being who didn't have a concept. So like imagine like you didn't have concepts of these like very human feelings, and the first human feeling, maybe the strongest human feeling you feel is that, you know, when you first like take up that position, you start taking on human emotions. It is understandable why it's so extreme, you know. And I couldn't help but like think about that, and I think it goes down as one of the more fascinating of like, I think anime, there have been some really memorable anime that deal with the concept of like beings or creatures who experience human emotions for the first time. Like I haven't seen that one about the god who, it's pretty much the villain of this story is the main character of another anime. I can't remember what it's called, but they copy things, and they like I remember this thing copied a wolf, and then like learned how to be a wolf, and then it eventually copied this girl who was dying, and then ended up taking her place and grew up among the like people, and then like
Sounds like I want to watch this.
Yeah,
though.
I can't.
That sounds really familiar.
I don't think it's Wonder Egg Priority. I feel like it's like a different. I'll find it, and I'll tell you guys about it. But I can't help but think of that. I think of the Chimera Ant arc in Hunter x Hunter. That one's one of the coolest ones because like you have the humans who, as the fight is going on, have to become more animalistic and more violent because they feel like they need to become that to survive. And then you have these like human hybrid like animal creatures who at the beginning were very animalistic, but now they're getting more in touch with their human emotions, and then how that gets in the way of them being the ultimate killing machines. And like I can't help but feel those feelings here, you know. They overcome some of the situations, whether it's Shadow Mio, Shadow Ushio, and then even at the very end like Heine, you know. That kind of overcoming the nature of what she is, you know, to overcome the need to eat, because that's what she's supposed to be doing. um, and now that she has these like human emotions, it's like, I don't want that. I just want the suffering to end. I want the cycle to be over, because I cannot stand that that's what I am. You know?
Yeah.
It's really sad.
Extremely sad.
So sad when that was going on, and then it was like, and even to the very end, they were like assuming, they were like, she's trying to get to it so that she can start the loop again, and it's like, that's not what's happening here, because she brought us here. She wants it to be done. You know,
tired.
She's so tired. Poor little baby. I feel the same way.
Like a beached whale. Like, I'm so
Yeah, I just feel like a beached whale day in and day out. You cannot, you know, like, it's that, you know, it's man, what a painful existence, but what a finale, I guess. So yeah, what anything, I don't know, are there any other concepts that we want to talk about? I feel like I could have inserted like some of the other things into some of the other concepts we were thinking of. Like the concept of a doppelganger is really cool. They take a classic story, and really made it their own. They expanded on doppelganger lore. You know, we're so used to that concept. Were there any specific episodes that you will like always remember? Like, did you guys have favorite episodes? Maybe. I loved episode 20. I felt so sad after episode 20.
Which one was 20?
That was I think that was the episode that Hizuru. We get is that the Hizuru flashback episode? I think it's the episode that Hizuru dies. It's during the fight between them and the beach.
Okay.
And then she settles to like, oh, take control, and then like take control of the armor, and then like, it's really cool how that all happened, because they reset the time loop. It's like tragic, because when they reset the time loop, that emotional moment that I felt particularly emotional about did not matter.
Yeah.
It's like crazy to think.
Yeah.
But it still made it hurt at the moment, you know, like, and then even then at the end of it, it was like, this has happened before from the bad guy, and he's like, and I remember it, so it won't work on me this time. And I was like, oh my god, that sucks. Yeah. You know, like, yeah, I thought about that a lot. I didn't cry too much during the show, but like that moment like particularly hit me. It's almost like a blur, because I also binged it.
It's hard to pick out one, right?
And I guarantee you, if you watch it again, you wouldn't be able to immediately think of what happens next. Because it is so many twists and turns.
Yeah. There's a lot of shuffling that goes on there.
Yeah.
I don't know, I just keep thinking about the gymnasium scene. That will always stick with me.
You lost it.
I was on your couch, and I was just like, what?
The episode just ends. They're like, yeah, we're ready to get into action. We have the plan all figured out.
Cut.
He's cooking. Me in the kitchen suddenly. What happened?
I think that was the point. I was just like, I love this. Yeah. I absolutely love this. This is
it's like
so funny.
Damn. They really hyped us all up.
They really did that.
I really liked the as much as I wasn't crazy about Hizuru, I really liked her brother.
Yeah, Ryunosuke.
Ryunosuke.
Yeah, and I like that beach fight. That's where I really saw her do something.
Yeah.
Like, she already, she had her first badass appearance where she she was like, they're like, oh, if only we could figure out how to identify shadows easily and kill them.
Yeah. It was cool when she was killing them.
Bang and step.
Yep.
But that wasn't her, right?
Yep.
That was her brother. And this is where she really came to light, which is where they're fighting on the beach, and she tells him, like, I give you full
control.
Take control, yeah.
Don't hold back.
It was, yeah, yep. That was my favorite moment. 'Cause
Hmm.
I wasn't expecting it. I did not expect her to do anything like this.
Hmm. But it needed to be done, right? Like, or like,
Well, the question is, was the effect going to be long lasting? You
that was
know,
the
and no
question,
one
right?
actually knew. No one
Yeah.
actually knew. Was she going to be able to come back?
Hmm.
No. We'd seen a couple of characters come back a few times, and there was some times where it felt permanent. You know,
Yeah.
the loss was permanent.
Yep.
Mhm.
So, and yeah, that was permanent for her, wasn't it? Until like
Yep.
until the finale. So,
Which I have a lot of questions about the finale.
hmm,
Mhm.
Um, it had that feeling of Inception, where they're at the end and we
you're on
see
a
the top
beach.
spin,
Yeah.
and then we don't know if this is another dream. Um, Paul said it was because they cleared everything, like
Yeah.
they're good.
Right.
They started the timeline over where none of this was a thing,
Yeah.
and so that's why everyone survives. But I had questions because there was still like Heine was now in the story.
Yeah.
Um, or like she's still like she's good, and then the Shide still has his like he has a family. He has
Yeah.
a son who doesn't look anything like him.
Yeah. Yep.
um,
Mhm.
I just felt like these characters, especially the Heine one, like why was she in this timeline here? You know,
Yeah.
she would have.
That one is a strange. I have no explanation for that one. That one's a strange one. The Shide one was fine.
Shide would
Yeah.
have been dead 300 years prior to that moment.
Yeah.
The
But
Heine moment was more like I just kind of took it because like the last thing that she said to Ryosuke was like, "I hope we can be friends," right?
yeah.
Um, and then she basically like gets reincarnated in this form as like what was it? His daughter,
His
I think
daughter.
it
Yeah.
was, right?
Hmm.
So like there's just like a connection between those two, and I was like, all right,
I think it was just like a
I
shoehorned
get
thing.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, basically,
A
it's
what?
just like
Like a shoehorned thing. Like a
Mm.
or like an excuse to.
to yeah
You know,
for her to get to get that happy moment,
it's the ending
basically,
Yeah.
of it's
right?
the ending of 500 Days of Summer. You know, like there's this girl who showed up. Her name is Autumn. You know, like just really just really silly. Like it's not a good ending.
I'm
At
so
least
mad at you.
why?
Why are we talking about 500 Days of Summer
Well,
on this amazing
it's
anime podcast?
no. It's the same vibe. It's I'm agreeing that it's not like a perfect like thing, and that's the feeling I get. Is the ending of 500 Days of Summer. There was no point to like bring that up or like do that.
Mm-mm.
It
There
feels
wasn't,
pointless. Um,
Yeah, I felt like it was all thrown in to make everyone like feel goods at the end.
yeah,
but it
But
was
it's a very
I
feel good
had
ending.
I wondered if Yoshio had actually altered some timelines and worked her butt off to get those
Perfect ending.
reincarnations to happen.
Oh, maybe.
probably.
Because it felt like because we, for example, there's all those characters that are now in a timeline that they never were in originally.
Yeah.
And if that was the case where they had just followed protocol and said, all right, we'll just restart the beached whale and no one touches it.
Hmm.
No one touched the whale.
No one touched the whale. Then we would have not had those characters, those names, those families, or anything like that. I feel like it was another alternate where it's almost like she had even superior time traveler powers
Hmm.
than Shinpei. It's
Yeah.
like she let him borrow her eye for a bit,
Hmm.
and then just here, take half my power. I can't do this alone. And then when she got full power back, she could just do whatever. So I wonder if she went through what I pictured because she said, I've got something to do
Hmm.
or
Mhm.
whatever. And then she, like, if it was that everything had been fine, I feel like she would have just gone back with him. Instead, she throws him back out and then
Right.
says, eventually I'll find you again, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like she's like this ultimate time traveler and went through millions and millions and millions of iterations to find the one because everything is possible, right?
Yeah.
When you have infinite loops, every possible outcome of parallel universes is in existence, and I feel like she hunted through all of them to find the one where this one happened.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like what's the probability of this actually being the way things play out? Everything everywhere all at once. Gets you superpowers when this does happen.
Yeah.
Like insane superpowers. But it does happen, and she had to go find it. Like she had to work really, really hard to go find which timeline does everything work out perfectly. Like, Heine gets to be in this timeline, and she gets to be friends with
Ryunosuke, yeah.
Ryunosuke, and nobody's parents are dead. Like,
Yeah.
even his parents are alive.
Yep.
To find this perfect timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it has to exist somewhere in here, and she just has to find it. That's it.
I like the idea of that.
Me too, because I'd do it.
Yeah. I don't know, I get tired halfway. I'm just like, I'll find one and just settle. I'm like, you know what, this is good enough. Maybe you come back with one parent. You only need
Rob will beached whale after halfway through.
This is fine.
We're all just a bunch of beached whales. That's incredible. Well, I love that. It was a really good show. It's 25 episodes. I think they just a great amount of mystery to start. Like a slew of questions that you'll have yourself as you're going through the story, and it slowly gets answered along the way, in surprising ways sometimes.
Had the most oh shits out of me, I think, out of any show.
The funniest was, remember when my sister came downstairs? So me and Rob were watching, and who fucking died in that scene?
So
died in that scene?
So died. It was. I think it was when they were in the grotto.
Okay.
Right? And then like your sister came down to like put up some dishes or whatever, and as she's like coming back up the stairs, she looks over at the TV and he just gets shot.
Yeah.
And she's like,
oh my god.
oh my god.
The show's like violence is very strong to start. Like the first half is like they're shocking when it like happens. It's really cool how like towards the end of it it's less shocking. But that would also be the case for anyone who is undergoing this many time loops. Like they would feel less shocked at the violence of it. You get used to it, you know? But it's like,
I think the violence is less shocking, but it's like
it's also more anime in the second half.
But it's like surprising when it happens. Like I still get caught off guard by it, right? Like it's not like, oh my god, they did this. It's just like, oh shit, this just happened. What?
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's a very different feeling.
Yeah.
You know.
So I think it does a good job with that, and then like those moments are only further like enhanced with the kind of art style switch. You know, it's a classic technique, like Kakegurui does it, where their faces become like, I'm gonna kill you! You know, it's like really close up. You can see every fucking wrinkle on their ugly heads.
No life in their eyes.
No life in their eyes. You know, it's a really cool technique.
Hey, now that's no way to speak of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
They don't have eyes.
I don't have eyes. Lifeless. There are no eyes.
Oh my god. Shoutouts to Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. True homies. Alright, do we have any other things we want to talk about with Summertime Rendering? I think it's safe to say it was one of our favorites so far. Yeah.
I'm curious to see where we go from here.
Is that you trying to set me up to say the next anime?
I mean, it could have been a nice clean pass into a swish, but you know, here we are.
All right. So
Asher kind of like fumbled the ball a little bit, but he gained.
I did. I was very confused. I was like, all right, I guess they don't have anything else they want to talk about. I had always said I was gonna do this.
Oh boy, here we go.
And it was really funny because Rob asked me the other day. He was like, I was like, I know what I'm picking. And then he was like, have I seen this? And then I was like, yes. And I had already been telling a couple of other people what I was going to pick. because it's time. It's lined up. It's perfect to pick it now. I'm pretty sure Jenny hasn't seen it, but I'm very excited for this, and so soon it'll be the most recent anime we could possibly watch. So we're gonna have something a lot newer on our plate, and that is, get ready to break out your light sticks. Oshi no Ko is the next anime we're watching.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Oshinoko. Oshinoko.
Funny that you brought it up earlier.
Don't look it up.
And it was really funny when you asked me if you had watched it. And I was like, yeah, you watched it. And now you have an excuse
to the first episode blind.
Go into the first episode blind. Very important. Another Jenny banger. Because Jenny loves every anime that I pick. So yeah, we'll see. I'm very curious I'm very excited. I'm glad that I haven't had any extended discussions with Rob about it. Because I would love to have those discussions. I
think we've only really had long discussions over like the first episode.
Yeah, which is easy to.
And maybe like the first 3. Now it's done.
It's done.
It just finished
last week, and that's why I was finally able to pick it.
Which is also cool because I haven't watched the final episode yet, so I'll just watch all of it again.
Mm-hmm.
Are they? So I'm seeing that it's 11 episodes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one season.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
First episode is an hour and a half.
First episode is a movie length. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything else after that is
22 minutes.
Yeah.
20 minutes
like
or
standard.
so. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Listen, if you three want to watch that first episode,
this can't be anywhere near as bad as the
Put that on the soundboard, please.
Actually, I'm gonna add that soundboard to the Discord. Yeah. Get a soundboard clip, and I'm gonna put it in the Discord so that whenever we're in Discord channel, we can like spam that.
Koji no shouju.
Oh my god, that's so.
Koji no shouju.
Honestly, we should be using the soundboard for like the cast, right? Like if we did a.
Oh lord.
Like that would be really funny, right?
It's kind of like the AnimeCast. We have Robo Drew. Actually, we have a soundboard.
What, is that? Oh, okay. I was gonna say, but is that on purpose?
Yes.
So yeah, it'll be Oshi no Ko. If you three want to get together and watch that first episode, it's a movie, so it's like that's kind of cool. It's also cool if not. I understand. I love that first episode. It's one of my favorite first episodes of any anime ever.
I went through a lot of emotions,
honestly,
both good and bad.
And it's a weird episode, which makes it very cool. So anyway, any parting words before we go into our next loop, Jenny? Where can people find you? Anything
We're getting closer to narrowing down when we'll be actually doing our show for the opening of Leaderboard.
Mm-hmm.
And so as soon as I get that date, I will let you guys know. Other than that, though, I will be very, very busy. Next week, I might be actually gone almost the whole week also for military stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we should definitely like. I'm excited to see you guys perform. That'll be sick. Yeah, and if you guys are ever in Jacksonville, go to Leaderboard. Very cool scene. They got rhythm games. And so eat that shit up. All right, Rob, what about you? Any where can goons find you? You got anything to showcase?
You can find me at Leaderboard playing Taiko Drum Master and chilling with my dad Cliff. Go support Leaderboard, please.
You can also find me there playing Taiko Drummer with him, but passed out on the other set because I am incredibly out of shape. Anyway, continue.
Anyway. You can also find me on Twitter at Zenosuke, ZNOSUKE. You can follow the other JSB show, the JSB Gamescast, that goes up every Wednesday, sometimes Thursday. It really just depends on whether or not I hit the button, or if I forget to hit the button. But this past episode was a lot of impressions on Final Fantasy 16, mostly from Drew's perspective, which is not as high of a take as mine.
Really?
So definitely.
Wow, I have to give that a listen. I haven't listened
Give
to
it
it yet.
give it a listen. Give it a listen.
Everyone give it a listen. I want to hear
Maybe
some.
Drew doesn't like Final Fantasy 16.
And then at Drew on his Twitter.
And then at Drew and tell him he's wrong. And tell him to go pet Torgal. He is a wonderful dog. Everyone, please go pet your Torgals.
Perfect. I love that. And me, you can find me on this channel. You can find me on the JSB YouTube as well. And then on Twitter, where I'll be posting probably like card game stuff, Magic the Gathering type things. We're getting closer to like thinking about what I want to do for like cooking stuff. We might do JSB cooking stuff. And I've actually inched closer to how we want to like shoot that stuff. So hopefully we can get that in order once we also get the equipment for it. So that'll be great. And then, yeah, if you want to see card games, that's my current addiction. I'm also currently streaming Dredge on this channel, hoping to pick up Fatal Frame soon. And then I also had a conversation with Carrie. You'll probably see content for this. Carrie wants me to start like a daily report where I send Rob and Carrie my progress on Xenoblade 3.
Oh, I'm like, how did I get roped into this?
Because on the car ride, he was like, yeah, you have to play that game. I think it's very good. And I was like, okay. He's like, you can send me and Rob a report card like every day.
Absolutely.
And then if you miss out, we'll take away your commander decks. And I was like, well, okay.
Yes. Yes.
But apparently, like, the game is that good. Like, I mean, I've only heard really fucking good things about that game, and I should just get around to it. But I'm also playing Octopath, so it's like,
oh yes, just get around to this 120-hour JRPG.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
So yeah, in the meantime, y'all take care. Thanks for watching, and if you're listening to the recording, know that we appreciate it. And have a good whatever day it's on. And if you're listening in the morning, have a good morning. You're listening in the afternoon, have a good afternoon. Listening in the evening, have a good evening. Just have like a good time period. Whatever loop you're on, have a good time loop.
Wherever this time loop drops you off.
Yeah, exactly.
Have fun.
All right, bye-bye. Everyone say bye-bye.
Bye.